Hundreds of people, including Islamic State fighters, evacuated Baghuz. The evacuation started hours after US-backed Syrian fighters said they were forced to slow their advance because the extremists were using civilians as human shields. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Force said some 500 people, including fighters, had surrendered and evacuated the Islamic State territory. Dozens of men, women and children climbed hills on foot and were later seen getting into small trucks after they were searched by SDF fighters manning the evacuation corridor. Saudi Arabia said that it is too early to restore diplomatic ties with Syria or reinstate Damascus to the Arab League without progress on political process to end the 8-year-old war. Saudi Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Adel Jubeir said that Riyadh would not take part in any reconstruction efforts before stability is restored in Syria. Jubeir was talking at a joint news conference with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. UAE, a Saudi ally, has reopened its embassy in Damascus in December in a diplomatic boost for Assad. Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido received a hero's welcome as he turned to Caracas after a tour of South American nations. Guaido was met by crowds of supporters and numerous European diplomats after he landed in Caracas airport. Guaido said that Venezuela is stronger than ever. The 35-year-old leader added that the country was soon going to achieve the end of usurpation and that despite the risks, the people will not stop. Guaido called for protests against Maduro. He said that the opposition will be, quote-unquote, going with much more force to the streets of Venezuela. In the U.S. House Judiciary Committee announced a fresh investigating, in fact, into President Donald Trump. The Judiciary Committee sent letters to 81 people and entities. This includes the White House, the Justice Department, senior campaign officials, Trump Organization, and the President's sons. The investigation will tackle questions including possible corruption, obstruction of justice, hush money payments to women, and collusion with Russia. Trump will also be probed on allegations of abusing his office and using it for personal gain. U.S. First Lady Melania Trump began a 3-state tour to highlight all 3 components of her Be Best Childhood initiative. Melania visited Tusla's Dove School of Discovery, which the White House says incorporates character education in its curriculum. The First Lady also visited a Seattle area tech company to learn about programs and apps designed to teach children how to be safe online. She also inspected technology that help children with disabilities. This is Melania's first solo domestic overnight trip in her official capacity. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey said that President Donald Trump called her to offer help after deadly tornadoes struck her Alabama state and killed at least 23 people. The White House, meanwhile, has told the Federal Emergency Department that to give Alabama the A+ treatment, addressing storm victims in one hard-hit county. Ivey said that she has got their back and the state will do everything in its power to help the citizens of the county recover. In Algeria, students boycotted classes and took to the streets to denounce an offer by President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to run in elections next month, but not to serve a full term if re-elected. Hundreds of students staged a small demonstration in several cities outside the capital. This is the second week of protests in Algeria. Thousands are asking the 82-year-old President Bouteflika to step down and not to seek a 5th term. Bouteflika's opponents say that he is no longer fit to lead, citing his ill health and what they call chronic corruption. 4 Americans and a Kenyan pilot were killed when their helicopter crashed just after takeoff from a remote Kenyan island in Lake Turkana. The aircraft came down in Central Island National Park, killing all on board. The cause of the crash had yet to be determined. The U.S. Embassy in Kenya said that it was offering assistance to the families of the deceased. The crash comes less than a month after a light fixed-wing aircraft crashed in western Kenya, killing all 5 people, including 3 Americans. In Canada, a fire crew was called to battle a huge blaze at the Brampton Flying Club after an airplane caught fire inside a hangar. 1 person has been reported missing post the blaze. Cause of the fire is undetermined. Video from the local media reports show heavy black smoke blowing from the roof, which appears to have partly caved or collapsed. A number of fire trucks and firefighters were on the scene. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau dismissed reports of 2 imprisoned Canadians attempting to steal state secrets from China. China accused 2 detained Canadians of acting together to steal state secrets just days after Canada announced it will proceed with a U.S. extradition request for a senior Chinese tech executive. Trudeau said that it's unfortunate that Beijing continues to push forward with detentions of former Canadian diplomat Michael Kovrig and entrepreneur Michael Spavor, who he said has been arbitrarily detained by China from the very beginning. Clashes broke out between Palestinian protesters and Israeli security forces after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu called for the speedy demolition of the homes of 2 Palestinians shot dead during an alleged car attack on Israeli troops in the West Bank. An Israeli officer and border policeman were injured when the Palestinian car hit a group of Israeli troops. A 3rd Palestinian inside the car was wounded and taken into custody. A latest report said that an initial inquiry indicates that the incident was a terror attack. The UN nuclear watchdog has said that Iran is complying with the 2015 deal with the major world powers aimed at preventing the country from building nuclear weapons. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Yukiya Amano, made his assessment in a regular update to the International Atomic Energy Agency's Board of Governors. Amano said that Iran is implementing its nuclear-related commitments under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now remember, the US unilaterally withdrew from the deal last year and reimposed sanctions on Iran. Deputy of slain Mayor Pavel Adamowicz has won a by-election to become his successor and the first woman to hold the post. Now, they said that the 39-year-old lawyer Alexander Dulkevich was backed by more than 82% of voters. Dulkevich has been the acting mayor since Adamowicz's January 14th assassination. In her first comments as mayor, she thanked voters and asked them to help cultivate a sense of community that grew out of the collective sorrow in the weeks since the death. In eastern France, vandals drew anti-Semitic graffiti on a former synagogue in what is the latest in a string of incidents that has caused a nationwide concern. Swastikas were discovered on the doors and a a facade of a building in the town of Momenheim that formerly held a synagogue and has Hebrew lettering etched above its doorway. The building now houses a sports facility. Vandals also knocked over a monument to a synagogue raised by the Nazis in nearby Strasbourg. The same region, some 80 gravestones at a Jewish cemetery were recently vandalized. Indonesian authorities have said that they were not certain how many people were buried in the collapse of a remote gold mine near a week ago. Authorities suggested that the number could be as high as 100, as it is unclear how many people were working at the site at the time of the collapse. 19 people have been rescued with injuries ranging from minor to serious. The official death toll from the collapse of the North Sulawesi mine stands at 9 as of now. Media access to the mine has been restricted. British Prime Minister Theresa May visited Salisbury, marking the first anniversary of the Novichok attack in the city. May visited two shops close to Salisbury Cathedral and met members of the public on the High Street. May acknowledged that the year gone by was a difficult one for citizens and business owners. May said that the decontaminating process was now over and declared Salisbury open for business. Britain has officially accused Russia of being behind the nerve agent attack, an allegation which Russia has repeatedly denied. In US, the drivers on the Interstate 70 in Colorado had a lucky escape after an avalanche almost hit the highway. A video filmed by one of the drivers shows how the torrent of snow rolling down the mountainside. Now, close to the Copper Mountain, although the avalanche stopped short of hitting the Interstate 70, it released a high cloud of snow dust that blanketed much of the road. The driver, who was also the man behind the lens, told local media that he and his father escaped unharmed. They, however, were shaken by the power of the avalanche. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, residents are busy digging out of one of the biggest snowstorms of the season that dumped more than a foot of snow overnight. Late winter storm hit the hardest in the early morning hours of Monday. It dumped more than a foot of fresh snow on a large area of New England, hitting some areas that had gotten off unscathed for most of the season. Forecast showed only 5 to 8 inches of snow were expected, but measurements showed the storm dumped about 15 inches of precipitation. Britain's Prince Harry visited the Scar-Free Foundation Centre in Birmingham. The lab is in fact the first of its kind, aiming to help military veterans and civilians wounded in militant attacks deal with appearance-altering injuries. Harry, who served in armed forces for a decade, including 2 tours of Afghanistan, heard about techniques being used in the centre. The royal soon-to-be father also shared a moment with a crying 5-week-old baby with speaking to his old friend, a former Marine and new father, J.J. Chalmers.